Monday Night Raw starts off with CM Punk coming out to the ring, cutting a promo. He starts mentioning John Cena. He appreciates John Cena, mentions how he wants one more match with John Cena before his retirement. Then he mentions Drew McIntyre, and he mentions Drew McIntyre's suspension. He showed what happened at the press conference after Money in the Bank. Drew McIntyre going wild, accidentally attacking Adam Pearce, and him getting suspended. Then Drew McIntyre ends up saying that there are consequences for your actions, and the consequences for your actions is the consequences for your actions is him, CM Punk, because Drew McIntyre constantly kept on poking at CM Punk. Then he ends up saying that he will make sure that Drew McIntyre will never become champion as long as he is on the roster. Kind of reminded me a bit of Adam Page and Swerve Strickland a bit. And Punk ends up basically saying that he wants a match. He wants a match and he wants to fight Drew McIntyre and he wants his suspension lifted. Then Seth Rollins comes out. Seth Rollins comes out. He gets in the ring and he ends up saying that he does not understand why because at first he starts mentioning action has consequences, and he ends up saying that he doesn't understand why that saying doesn't apply to CM Punk. He ends up mentioning how he does not understand why CM Punk got involved at Money in the Bank. Punk responds, ends up saying that he was handling his business with Drew McIntyre, and he said that Seth should understand as a husband and a father. He mentions his daughter, ends up mentioning how that he took something that meant something to him, the bracelet that represents his family. And Seth Rollins wants CM Punk to apologize. CM Punk is having a hard time to apologize, but he ends up apologizing. He ends up saying that he's apologized to Seth, that he's sorry. But he ends up taking it back, ends up saying that since it is you, I cannot be that sorry, which I thought was very good. Seth, of course, doesn't take that, well. He ends up saying that you can never apologize because you think nothing is your fault. You're so smart, you have everything figured out, but you have to be the dumbest smart person I've ever met. But you're missing the one thing that makes you the hero, which is the world doesn't revolve around CM Punk. Then Seth ends up saying, mentioning Money in the Bank, ends up saying that it is CM Punk's fault why he isn't world champion. And he ends up saying that you took the championship away from me, so I'm going to take something away from you. He basically ends up saying that you're basically not going to lay a hand on Drew McIntyre. Basically, you're not going to lay a hand on Drew McIntyre. And the moment you become cleared, I am going to make sure you came and say Drew McIntyre, and I'm going to snap your arm, putting you back on the shelf. And that's the end of that promise. This was great. This was amazing. This is great. And this is why they had Drew McIntyre cash in at Money in the Bank. They did this to elevate and to promote the Seth Rollins and CM Punk feud, to put Seth Rollins back in the feud. Because if you don't have Drew McIntyre cash in, Seth Rollins does not reunite the feud with CM Punk. So this is great. Now, I am interested to see how this would play out, because later in the show, the reason why Seth Rollins is upset, he ends up getting the opportunity anyway. So I wonder if he's still going to hold on to, making sure CM Punk won't be able to fight Drew McIntyre. I'm curious to see if he's still going to hold on to his word. Next, we get Jey Uso versus Chad Gable. Not going to speak too much on his match because there's not really much to say here. During the match, Chad Gable had Jey Uso on an ankle lock, but the lights go off, and we already know who it is. It's the Wyatt 6. But the lights go off, but the match is still going. Chad Gable is distracted, of course. Jey Uso ends up spearing him and picks up everything. After this, immediately, the lights go off. The lights are still off. Flash, the fireflies are going off, and the music starts hitting. Jey Uso's dip, and Chad Gable is just laying flat in the ring. Then Chad Gable gets up. He's in the middle of the ring, and then you see Nikki Cross appear from outside the ring. Chad Gable starts running away. It was funny, too, because when Chad Gable started running away, when he starts running towards, the entrance ramp, someone in the crowd said, "Look out from behind you," from Chad Gable, and he ended up tripping, which I thought was hilarious. But then we see Nikki Cross ends up giving another VHS tape, and she puts it on the announcer's table, and then later on in the show, we figure out what and then they end up playing the VHS tape. Next, we get Sheamus. He's getting interviewed, but it gets quickly interrupted by Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed basically ends up telling him that, he's old news. Bronson Reed is the future, and that it's over for Sheamus. Sheamus, of course, doesn't take that lightly, and he wants a match, basically, which Bronson Reed accepts, but he says not tonight on the show because he's facing Pete Dunne. So they would have their match next week on Raw, and this leads to Bronson Reed versus Pete Dunne. Bronson Reed picks up the quick victory here. This was a decent match, but I'm not going to go over too much. Bronson Reed picks up the victory. But after this, Bronson Reed is not done. He's constantly about to attack Pete Dunne. He's about to do another tsunami on Pete Dunne, but Sheamus comes out, makes the save. They brawl for a bit. He ends up hitting the bro kick onto Bronson Reed, but that doesn't put him down. Pete Dunne ends up helping Sheamus, ends up doing a drop kick. Sheamus does a big boot and ends up tossing Bronson Reed outside the ring. Then Sheamus tries to celebrate and hug Pete Dunne, but Pete Dunne ends up refusing to hug and ends up leaving. Very interested to see how this plays out. I'm assuming they put Bronson Reed in this spot because Ludwig Kaiser is injured. So I'm assuming that they just put Bronson Reed in this position because since Ludwig Kaiser is injured, they having something for Sheamus to do, have him have another rivalry. I'm very interested to see what this Pete Dunne and Sheamus storyline go because I actually like the Brawling Brutes. Personally, I feel like they could have done more with them if they just booked them better, but I wonder how this is going to go, especially with Pete Dunne being in the tag team. I wonder how that would go, though. Next, we get Damian Priest and Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins ends up mentioning how Damian Priest basically got lucky, but he respects him because he was good in the match and that he stuck by his word and none of the interferences was his fault. He didn't act, Judgment Day didn't get involved, so he respects it and that he's going to stand by his word by not going after the title. Damian ends up stopping Seth Rollins, ends up saying that, look, since Damian still wants to prove himself and prove that he's a worthy champion, he ends up basically banishing the deal, ends up saying that, look, if you want another shot, you can have it right after I beat Gunther, you can have another title shot. So he ends up relinquishing, the deal that they made. So this is where I say that it's kind of interesting that, is he still going to try to stop CM Punk because you get another title shot now, so he didn't really ruin your opportunity. But most likely Damian is going to lose at SummerSlam anyway. But just saying, if Damian was to retain, would he still try to attack CM Punk or try to prevent CM Punk from attacking Drew McIntyre? Because he prevented you from winning the world championship, sure, but you get another shot, so that's where it's kind of iffy. But I'm interested to see how this play out. But most likely Damian Priest will probably lose at SummerSlam anyway. Next, we get Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn cutting a promo, mentions Money in the Bank, and he ends up mentioning that he's not the underdog anymore, which is very shocking because for some weird reason, he's saying he's not the underdog, but WWE keeps booking him like he's the underdog for whatever reason. Then Bron Breakker comes out. He comes out and he's just staring at Sami Zayn. He comes out and he's just staring at Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn is wondering why is he out here? Why is he just staring at him? And he gives him the microphone. Bron Breakker ends up saying that he just came to look the man in the eye who beat him. And he ends up saying that he doesn't deserve the title shot. It looked like Bron Breakker was about to, give credit and just cut a normal promo. But in the middle of him talking, he immediately puts the microphone down real quick and spears Sami Zayn. This surprised me. I knew he was going to attack him, but Bron Breakker is just so fast and so quick. The way he was just able to just quickly just immediately turn and just spear Sami is just ridiculous. Like, for a guy his size to be as fast as he is, it's ridiculous. So he's attacking Sami. He's constantly attacking Sami. Security is lifting him up, get him off Sami to stop attacking. So security is following him out, trying to, follow him out. They're going up the inches route. Adam Pearce is right beside Bron Breakker, and he ends up tricking Adam Pearce with the oldest trick in the book by pointing at something. Adam Pearce looks at it and tricks all the security guards, and then he runs away, runs around the ring, and ends up sparing Sami Zayn once again. This was great. This was great. Bron Breakker is hilarious. That was just a great segment. The fact that he was able to trick them that easily is just ridiculous. Then security guards, try to follow him out again, try to make sure he doesn't attack Sami. And then you get Ilya Dragunov. Ilya Dragunov comes out and he basically wants all the smoke with he wants all the smoke. He wants all the smoke and he wants to fight Bron Breakker. But, of course, security is breaking him up. And then right after this, they end up having a segment with Adam Pearce and Dragunov and Sami Zayn in the emergency room. Dragunov basically says he wants Bron Breakker, and we end up getting a match between Bron Breakker and Ilya Dragunov later on in the show. Now we get Judgment Day versus Awesome Truth in a 6-man tag. It's Carlito, Finn Balor, JD McDonough versus Awesome Truth and Braun Strowman. In the middle of Awesome Truth's entrance, the Judgment Day ends up attacking Awesome Truth. Braun Strowman ends up coming out, and of course, Judgment Day starts running away. And then, but Braun Strowman ends up catching Carlito on the outside, which leads Finn Balor and JD McDonough inside the ring. This allowed Awesome Truth to they both end up doing the attitude adjustment on JD and Finn Balor. Then the match officially begins. R-Truth is in the ring and he ends up paying homage to John Cena, his childhood hero. Of course, he has to do that. Then it cuts to commercial. Then It gets to a hot tag to Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman basically dominates everyone. He's dominating everyone. Then it gets to a point where R-Truth, Braun Strowman, and JD McDonough are all on the outside. Braun Strowman, for some weird reason, really wants to fight JD McDonough so badly. JD McDonough constantly is running away from Braun Strowman. He runs away all the way to basically the backstage area. He's gone for the rest of the match. Him and Braun Strowman are gone for the rest of the match. R-Truth is celebrating. He's excited. He constantly celebrating with the crowd. Gets back in the ring, but he's distracted, which leads to Finn Balor ends up taking advantage and ends up picking up the victory for Judgment Day. Next, we get Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio. They have a backstage segment because they have an upcoming match, they have a mixed tag match with Selena Vega and Rey Mysterio. Liv Morgan is basically, talking about how Dominic is so stretched and how basically they need to work on some moves together since they're going to be in a match and that he look a little stretched out. Dominic is getting backed up against the couch that's right behind him. He's like, I'm not stressed out, calm down, but Liv keeps getting closer and closer. Dominic accidentally falls onto the couch. Then Liv Morgan ends up stretching his leg out. Dominic refused at first, but then he starts enjoying the stretch. He starts enjoying the stretch and allowing her to do it. Then out of nowhere, you see Damian Priest, of course, catches Dominic Mysterio again, and then you see JD and Finn Balor heads stick out from the side of the wall, which I thought was hilarious. Damian, of course, ends up confronting Dominic Mysterio, and he ends up saying that you should have been done with this weeks ago. It's not that hard. Then Carlito did a very funny line. He ends up saying that I think it is hard, pointing at Dominic Mysterio's private area. I'm starting to love Carlito in this faction. Carlito, he doesn't do much in the faction, but him as a comedy gimmick is actually working for me. I thought that was hilarious. Then Dominic Mysterio ends up saying that Damian Priest is starting to sound like his father. Damian ends up responding that I'm starting to understand your father every single week. Then Dominic basically ends up saying he's going to finish it, that he's going to completely end this, but we all know he's not going to end it. Then Damian is talking to Finn Balor. Finn Balor is wondering what the surprise that Damian had to tell them. Damian ends up saying that, you know what, I'm just going to keep it to myself because Dominic Mysterio is going to be in for a surprise. Once Damian said that, I knew what was going to happen. I kind of already knew what was going to happen before, which is in the title with Rhea Ripley coming back. I knew the moment he said that Rhea Ripley was coming back. It only made sense because what other surprise does he have for Dominic Mysterio, especially with them being in the main event? It only made sense. Now we get the Y6. Get Bo Dallas. They're playing the VHS tape. Bo Dallas ends up saying that he took those that were forgotten, that nobody wanted, and that he gave them a purpose, and now that they're happy. And then they end up, showing each member of the Y6. They end up revealing who each member is, showing the mask, who's underneath the mask and all that. And he ends up saying that, he ends up asking a question. He ends up asking him, do you think that we are sick? The person responds, I'm assuming Uncle Howdy, of course, ends up saying yes. And he ends up saying that if you think we are sick, then sick is what we will become, aka being the Wyatt 6. Because when they spell sick, they spell it like S-I-C-K, then a 6 at the end, which I think is sick. So nice wordplay I like with that. Then after this segment, Chad Gable comes in. He's talking to Adam Pearce, mentioning the Wyatt 6, mentioning what happened on tonight's show. Adam Pearce basically kind of like brushes off, kind of like not taking it seriously. Then he opens he goes to an office. And then we see someone sitting down, and it's none other than Bo Dallas himself, a.k.a. Uncle Howdy himself. Now, he appeared as Bo Dallas. He didn't appear as Uncle Howdy. He appeared as Bo Dallas in his office, and then Adam Pearce walked into his office. So I'm very interested to see what's going to happen. I'm very interested to see how this story is going to play out. I'm assuming most likely they will have something to do at SummerSlam. I feel like that's the best time to have them have a match because there's no need for them to wrestle now. They don't need to wrestle on Raw. They don't need to wrestle on Raw. Just have them hold out until SummerSlam, and then their target, we don't know who their target would be. It looks like it's going to be Chad Gable, but they could pull a swerve. But I'm very interested to see how this story plays out. Next, get a quick segment with Damage Control. Basically, they start mentioning how Damage Control has to change, and it will change. And basically, on tonight's episode on Raw, that they would show how dominant they are and show that why they are the ones who run Monday Night Raw with their upcoming match with Lyra Valkyria and the KCs, basically. Then, after this segment, we got Dragunov versus Bron Breakker. This was a good match, really good match, but it ended in disqualification, with Bron Breakker ends up throwing a chair at Ilya Dragunov on the outside. Then, Bron Breakker, of course, is attacking Dragunov, constantly attacking Dragunov. Sami Zayn comes out, He's injured. He's playing an injury to like the rib area. Sami Zayn ends up making a quick save, try to help out Drago Dragunov, but as he's having the towards the aid of Ilya Dragunov, Braun Breaker ends up pulling Sami Zayn outside the ring and ends up tossing him over the announce table. After Braun Breaker tossed Sami to the announce table, Ilya Dragunov tries to get involved and tries to attack Braun Breaker, but he's still weakened from the match and still weakened from the chair shot. And Braun Breaker ends up tossing him over the announce table, and he ends up standing tall on top of the announce table. This is great. This was a really good segment, showing Braun Breaker being that dominant force that he is. Most likely, they're going to probably make this into a triple threat, which I'm kind of interested in because that match should be a banger in a triple threat match. Plus, if they are going to pull the trigger on Braun Breaker, this protects Sami Zayn as well to make sure that he's not the one taking the pin, if that's what they're worried about as well. Now we get Damage Control versus Lyra Valkyria versus the KCs. Not going to speak too much on this match. Damage Control pick up the victory. After this, though, is what I'm most excited about. Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and Sonya Deville finally join forces and ends up attacking Damage Control. End up attacking Damage Control, and they basically send a message that they are going to be the new threat in the women's division, and that anyone gets in the way and they're going to be dealt with, basically. And then after this, they end up getting interviewed, ends up getting shortly interrupted by the Unholy Union, basically ends up saying that as long as they have the tag team titles, they the ones that run the women's division. And Sonya Deville ends up saying that we'll see about that. I love this. I love this. I love this. Now, I will be a little bit biased here because I am a big fan of Sonya Deville. I think she is one of the most underrated women's wrestlers of all time, personally. I think she's very underrated, and this is the perfect way to establish Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler, get them some momentum, especially since they have the mouthpiece. They have the perfect mouthpiece in Sonya Deville. She could cut all the promos, just have Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark be the dominant forces that they are, and just have Sonya Deville be the mouthpiece. And plus, we know Damage Control will try to get their revenge. If this is a way to break up Damage Control, I am all for it. Look, I know people, I personally hate Damage Control. I loved it when they first formed, but with more and more bad booking, when they was doing the whole Bianca Belair and Bayley storyline, I started to hate it more and more because they just kept being losers, and there still are losers, to be real. So look, they just need to break up. Please just break up that faction. Please just do, because they're all better off as single stars anyway. But I'm excited for this. Now, I'm not going to get my hopes too high because I'm not expecting it to be like the biggest story in WWE, but I hope it gets executed well. Now we get to the main event. Liv Morgan versus and Dominic Mysterio versus Zelina Vega and Rey Mysterio. I'm going to get towards the end here because that's what's really important. Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio picks up the victory. After the victory, though, Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio hug. Dominic Mysterio ends up stopping the hug, ends up realizing what he's doing, but Liv Morgan ends up liking the hug and ends up immediately jumping on Dominic Mysterio and then pulls him down, where basically she's in missionary position. Dominic is trying to refuse that he doesn't want to be on top, but then he starts to give in. He's leaning closer and closer, and they're about to kiss, and then you hear Rhea Ripley's theme music. She has returned. She's furious. She's walking. She's not doing none of her interests. She's not doing the things she typically. No, she just walking straight up to the ring. She tried to attack Liv Morgan, but Liv Morgan ends up running away. Then Rhea Ripley ends up confronting Dominic Mysterio. Dominic tries to go for a hug, but she refuses. She refuses the hug and walks out, and that's how we end Monday Night Raw. This is great. This was a great episode. This was a really solid episode. Love what they did here. The main event was amazing. Everything was performed to perfection. This is great, and I can't wait to see what happens. Very interested how this plays out. I kind of feel like I know how this is going to play out, but you guys let me know what you guys see, how you guys going to think. We most likely know it's going to be the SummerSlam match. That's definitely going to be the SummerSlam match. I'm excited. I can't wait to see how this plays out. You guys let me know what you guys think of the Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio, and Rhea Ripley storyline. You guys let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think is going to happen. Let me know what you think of this overall Raw. But yeah, leave your opinions down below. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, that's it.